Hello, everybody. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the CEO Institute for inviting me here to speak with you, and it's great to see so many brains in the room, and I'm looking forward to them becoming a little bit more neuroplastic, and I hope you learn lots from this talk. So I'm going to get stuck into it, but we're talking about the blueprint to client connection. But before we start, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on me. Not much. I'm not going to go through all of this. You can read it, but I just want to give context of some of the work I do. And also, when people hear or read my bio, they go, okay, that's good. Does she know her stuff? I know a bit. I know a bit of stuff. So I'm a business and sales psychologist and neuroscientist, and I've done a lot of study in that space. My PhD was actually a pracademic PhD, which is very unusual. Normally they're academic PhDs, but what I wanted to do was be able to implement techniques into the real world. Hence, cognitive neuropsychology in business. And I especially specialise in more the sales environment and the conversion environment and how our brain operates when we are the seller and, more importantly, the buyer. I do a lot of speaking, and I'm also a master neuroplastician. Now, what that is only two of us in Australia. What that is someone who has a PhD in this space, that is accredited by the International Institute of Organisational Neuroscience, which means that I can teach neuroplasticity and also get you guys thinking very divergently and ideating at the best of your ability. So what do we do? Ross beautifully said, we help teach you the skills, strategies and tactics to ethically influence people, customers, clients, to amplify your growth, but it uses scientific principles. We don't guess. We don't go, I think this might do. We actually use data and analytics and look at the way the brain operates using neurochemistry and how we can get them to make the decisions that are good for them and ultimately good for us. We go under the skin of the way they behave and what they do, and by understanding these biases, we can get some phenomenal results. I want to stress, the word has come up a couple of times, ethics, and how important that is. And that is something that I want to make sure that I imprint into you guys today, that we want to make sure that it's done ethically and there is no manipulation. So what we're going to talk about, just a synopsis of this presentation for you, is understand very fundamental principles of behavioural science and psychology, how to engage with your clients, your customers, consumers, and actually each other, to be honest, like never before. And discover your business archetype. So we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end. You're going to discover your business archetype. You're going to do a little quiz. And to work out how to successfully activate your clients' triggers. So why do people behave the way they do? And if I ask someone that, they'll say, oh, because it's in their best interest, because it's something that they're going to gain, it's because it sounds good, it feels good, tastes nice, whatever. Actually, we don't know. It's not as rational as we think at all. We think we're rational, we are not. We are not, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. It's heavily influenced by our unconscious drivers in our environment, and the three areas that we need to think about is behavioural science. Now, some of the biggest companies in the world, Nike, Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Tiffany's, Coca-Cola, all have teams of Leannes working with them, teams of behavioural economists and behavioural scientists that are able to uncover why people behave the way they do, which is why, when it comes to neuromarketing and neuroselling, they do so well. Behavioural science, psychology, and behavioural economics. So, quick definition, just so we have a clear understanding. Behavioural science is understanding why people behave the way they do. Psychology is understanding why people think and behave the way they do. And behavioural economics is understanding the effects of psychological, cognitive, emotional, cultural factors and how all of this influences human behaviour and human thinking to make the decision to purchase. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard of the famous Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. And some of you have probably read the book, Thinking Fast and Slow. I highly recommend reading the book. A little bit chubby, but it is a phenomenal book. And he talks about System 1 and System 2 thinking. So not type 1, type 2, System 1, System 2 thinking. And if you look at these percentages, they're quite astounding, right? In fact, some of the latest studies show that that has now increased to 98%. Some of the latest data and analytics out of Harvard, and 2. So our System 1 thinking is emotion, intuition, instinct. But look at the attributes. Fast, subconscious, automatic, everyday decisions, error prone. Our logic, so-called logic system, our rational thinking, 5% at a push, slow, conscious, logical, complex decisions, but is reliable. This is actually you guys, and this is actually your clients and your customers. So if we are spending 95 to 98% of our brain power, by the way, we're making 35,000 decisions a day and our brain works at 11 million bits per second. Of course we're going to get emotional. Of course we're going to bring emotion in. What connects with us so quickly we can make a decision. So we use our System 1 thinking just about all the time. So when we want to connect with our clients, I call this branding psychology or brand psychology because there's 2 areas that we need to think about. 2 perspectives, the business perspective and the consumer perspective. Now, I often say we are too worried about the business thing and we forget about the people thing. And there's a number of people that I've been talking to, some great people I've been talking to today about, oh yeah, we know we need to be more human-centric, we need to humanise things, but how do we do it? We know we have to do it, we want to do it, we're humans, we're social creatures. But how do we do it? So, with the business perspective, we need to identify the business offering. What are you doing? What are you doing better than your competitors? Also, what are they doing better than you? What is your unique value? How do you position and message yourself? And what do you do beyond the utility of the product itself? So rather than the product is doing its job, what else do you do for your client and for your customer? Then you have the consumer perspective, which is a constellation of emotional and semantic associations that manages behaviours and crafts connections. We've talked about empowerment and empowering one another and empowering people. Human connection. Crafts connections, engagements, client connection, people connection, colleague connection, friend, family. This is how the brain works. So we humanise a brain, and I wonder why we do that. Well, we are social creatures, I stated that before. We're animals, we've got animalistic instincts. We like being around one another. It's why the term social proof, one of Dr. Robert Cialdini's 7 principles of influence, is so influential in the way that we operate successful businesses. Social proof, social media, social psychology, social sciences. Social nature shapes how we see the world. And there's inanimate objects. We see inanimate objects as having human qualities. So often we'll look at something and remind us of something that we feel, a childhood memory, a pattern, a smell, a taste. And that all stimulates our brain, which is why we always humanise a brand or humanise a business. Working in the B2B space and the B2C space, especially in the B2B, I get often people say to me, oh, Leanne, but we work with businesses. We don't work directly with the consumer. We don't work directly with the client. I say, do you sell to a building? Don't be ridiculous. I wasn't. That's right. You're still selling to a human. So the principles, these acronyms can get us caught up, right? So these principles are the same. Brand associations are idiosyncratic. They exist on an individual level. So how I see one business might be very different to how you see another business. How we understand one client might be different to another group. It's deeply psychological, and we tend to interpret it the best way that we can for ourselves. And our brand associations and business associations, along with our products and services, are also very different. So I want to quickly talk about the sales brain. Now, I teach this itself in like a 2-hour lecture. I just want to quickly talk about 2 parts of the brain that are really important in terms of sales and business and client connection. Your prefrontal cortex and your primitive brain. Now, have anyone heard about the amygdala or the amygdala hijack? I'm sure you have. Yep. Cortisol goes up. Right, so I've got 2 little brains here. I've got one going, oh my God, cortisol. And then I've got my other brain with his finger pointed up and he's holding a light bulb. Brilliant ideas, things are coming to me. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling safe. I can collaborate, I can partner. Oxytocin. Oxytocin that is stimulated in our prefrontal cortex is when we feel good. It's when we bond. It's when a customer feels happy. It's when we feel happy. Business is done. When we've got an increase in cortisol and we're stressed, I mean, one of the most popular words in sales is no. Sometimes even before you get to explain, or a team gets to explain how good the product or the service or the offering is, they don't even want to hear about it, and that's because their cortisol level has increased. So how your oxytocin is regulated and how your cortisol is regulated determines whether you are going to connect with a client. So I'll give you a bit more of an example in a sec. So I just want you to think about 3 fundamental principles. We determined that only 2 to 5% of the way we think, system 2 thinking, is logical, so the majority of the time we are irrational. We don't actually know what motivates people. Sometimes we think, why on earth did they choose that? Why on earth did they decide that? That's a silly decision. To us it is, not to them. And we don't really like to think, and that's because we can't. The brain, as I mentioned before, it operates so quickly that we have to do something to preserve our cognitive load, and that's mental heuristics, what we call shortcuts. So what we do is we get a piece of information and we'll take bits and pieces around and go, that's what I'm going to use to make a decision. Which is also part of confirmation bias, right? If we've seen it before and we like it, we're going to decide that's the bit of information that I'm going to use. But then my colleague might actually have the same lot of information presented to him, but he chooses the different bits to make a decision with. Now, we've both got the same bit of information, we've interpreted differently, our biases are different, and we've come up with 2 different outcomes. So when I say no one likes to think, we actually don't, because we can't. We have to take shortcuts to survive. We have to take shortcuts to lower our cortisol. But our customers are doing that too. Our clients, our customers, the consumers are actually doing exactly the same. They're irrational. They're not even sure what motivates them or why we are selling to them, so to speak. Or they don't like to think either. They're making mental heuristics or creating mental heuristics to make it easier. This is a really interesting study. I thought of putting it in. I think you guys will really enjoy it because it's fascinating to me, and I hope you do. So this is from a paper out of Stanford, Neural Predictors of Purchase by Professor Brian Knutson and his group. This was particularly published in 2007. The study is still going on because of the fascinating results that they've got. So what they did is they got a group of participants and they wanted to look at the neurological connection and pathways and expression when they were supposed to transact or when they intended to buy something. So they put them in a fMRI. So what that stands for is a functional MRI. If anyone's had like a CT scanner or an MRI where you go in, there's a big gantry or a big bore hole, and you go in and it scans, the magnet goes round really, really quickly, and it scans and you come up with an image of your brain. What a functional MRI does is look at the activity. So it does a lot more than just look at soft tissue and bony matter. It actually looks at the function. So you can see the parts of the brain highlight and increase in energy in certain areas depending on the stimulus. So they showed, there was 3 scenarios. They showed them a product, they actually showed them a box of chocolates for 4 seconds. And when they showed them the product, a box of chocolates, they went, fantastic. That's great. Their prefrontal cortex lit up, so that oxytocin injection happened. So they were happy, they were bonding. It was nice. They then showed them the price. So the same box of chocolates, and they priced it at $15. And they looked at the activity of the prefrontal cortex, same thing. It highlighted, I feel good. $15 box of chocolates. That's great. Fabulous. Happy to buy. The next 4 seconds, they actually showed them the box of chocolates with the price and gave them a choice, yes or no. What do you think happened? Yes. Now, these are behavioural scientists that are very experienced in their field. They did not even predict this. It was back in 2007. So a lot of behavioural science work is nowhere near, and neuroscience work nowhere near as established as it is now. But they thought, you are happy with the product, you are happy with the price. Now you're actually going to buy it, and you're going to take it home. Nope. The choice to transact and to actually part, the mental heuristic and the shortcut was cortisol. I don't want to go there. I want you to think about that in your business. So again, we had an increase in oxytocin, an increase in cortisol opposed to an increase in oxytocin, which is what was expected. Now, what are we now? 2025, so almost 20 years later, 18 years later, and this study is still continuing. I actually am involved in part of it because some of the functional MRI data and studies that we're seeing is mind-blowing, pardon the pun, but it really is. So it's really good to see how our brain behaves in these situations. So what's the problem? Why can't we connect with all our customers and our clients on the same level? Okay, we're starting to understand that there's discrepancies in neurochemistry, there's things that make us feel good, there's things that give us stress. Is it as straightforward as that? Well, we're human too. So we have our own biases. And one of the problems is that we communicate in a way that's natural for us. Of course it is, default. Now, I'm a huge personality. I'm toning it down right now, right? Ross said I'm an extroverted scientist, which I am. I get interviewed, because most scientists aren't, right? And I come on and I'm Greek, so my hands go all over the place. But if I thought that everyone communicated the same way I did, well, nothing would get done because it'd be chit-chat, but that's just impossible, that's silly. So that also means that I have to adjust the way that I communicate with my colleagues, with my customers, with my clients. So do you. We all have a tendency to assume that everyone wants to communicate in the same way we do. So even though we're comfortable communicating in the way we do, we think everyone else wants to, and that's not the case. We absolutely, and this is becoming more and more significant, underestimate the importance of personality traits and psyche. We're busy. How many times do you ask someone, oh, how are you? And they go, I'm busy. In fact, that doesn't happen. It's everyone's busy. And no one's busy is more important than anyone else is busy. When I ask you, how are you? I really want to know how you are. Because sometimes we're not good. But time and attention, we're hyper-connected, we're disengaged. Just quick. Remember, brain, 35,000 decisions a day going on, plus everything else that's happening. So it's easy just default back to what we do. And if you don't like it too bad, well, actually, it is too bad when you're not engaging with your clients or, more importantly, closing that sale, converting that sale. And we concentrate on the business thing rather than the people thing. I talked about that before. And body language is difficult to read. So we're becoming so digitised that we're becoming cueless. We are only relying on verbal cues and not non-verbal cues, which are actually more important. How are people behaving? Is their body weight forward? Is it back? Are they doing this? Are they defensive? Are they copying you? These cues are really important to engagement. And this is where I want to bring and introduce to you business archetypes. Now, a lot of you would have heard about archetypes. A lot of you, if you're in marketing, would say, okay, an archetype is a persona or a profile. This goes beyond that. I want to show you and explain to you the Jungian archetypes. So the Jungian archetypes from Carl Jung, who was a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, worked with Sigmund Freud, actually, was his student. And he came up with hundreds of archetypes, which were then brought into a group of 60, because there were so many, And then over modern times, this is around 1917, and then over time, developed into 12 groups of 5. And that's what we're going to look at, is the 12 groups. Looking at your own archetype as a person and your business is different. And I want you guys to put on your business hat, your CEO hat while you're here, but your business hat when we think about our business archetype. Because if we don't humanise your brand and your business, we're not going to connect with the client. So what are archetypes? What is this phenomenon? Archetypes are the universal inborn models of people or personalities that derive from the collective unconscious. Now, if any of you have read Carl Jung's work or heard of Carl Jung's work, you would know that he talks about the collective unconscious a lot. So we're not talking subconscious, we're talking collective unconscious. So we are born with this. It plays a role in influencing human motivations, behaviours, and their emotions. So essentially our archetype is the way we are born. We might not exhibit them exactly, but it is. It's what makes us comfortable and how we project ourselves and our genius to the world. I just had to throw this in because it's Greek, right? So, of course, if you see my big fat Greek wedding, everything stems from Greek. We made everything up. We also made up the archetype. It actually comes from the Greek word archetypos and does have, I'm not going to read this out, but the Oxford English Dictionary I find has one of the best and most succinct definitions of what the archetype is. So there are 12 archetypes. And these are the key to business success and connecting with your clients on a neurological level. It might sound straightforward. Oh, I'm just going to choose one of those. Okay, I like the magician. But it's actually not as straightforward as that. There's no right or wrong here, but what's wrong is if you resonate with the wrong archetype. Now, I'm going to go through each of these and 4 attributes of each very quickly, and at the end, there is going to be, I know, another QR code which will take you to a quiz that my team took about 9 months to create, because the correlation of 12 archetypes is quite complex. It's a fun quiz, it's colourful, it's nice, and you're going to get what you are. But I want you, as I'm talking through it, to see what you resonate with and which one you think that you are. And as we do that, it will be very apparent as how we then engage and how we resonate with our particular customers and our ideal clients. So there are 4 major human drives of the motivational theory. I'm just going to quickly mention them. Independence and fulfillment is one quadrant. Belonging and enjoyment is another quadrant. Risk and mastery is the 3rd quadrant. And stability and control is the 4th quadrant. So these little guys I've used for years and years and years, and I know they're fun, cartoonish, but they actually do stimulate oxytocin. They're fun. They're engaging. So with independence and fulfillment, we have innocent, the explorer, and the sage. In the quadrant of belonging and enjoyment, we have the jester, the lover, and the everyman. In the quadrant of risk and mastery, we have the hero, the rebel, and the magician. In the quadrant of stability and control, we have the ruler, the creator, and the caregiver. So as I go through each of these, and I've chosen, there's quite a lot of attributes, but I've chosen the main 4 that I think would be suitable to showcase today. I want you to think about what you identify with as yourself, as your brand, your business, and how you would then connect with the clients that are of the same archetype. So if we look at the innocent identity, so what I've also done is I've put a brand there just to give you a little bit of clarity around what kinds of brands out there represent each of the archetypes. So just a little bit of guidance in the essence of time, so that will help you out. So Dove, for instance, perfect, innocent identity, provides simple answers associated with goodness, morality, simplicity, and childhood. Have functions associated with cleanliness and health, and can be replicated. generally, innocent archetyped businesses have products and services that are priced moderate to low. Now, this is a generalisation, but it is the majority. Explorer, Jeep. Product or services helps customers feel free, non-conformist and pioneering, rugged and sturdy, very robust, often used in nature, dangerous settings or occupations. The product helps people express their individuality and often purchased or consumed on the go. Sage, the BBC, is one that's often used. Provides expertise or information to your customers. So you have a lot of expertise in what I call the genius orbit that you can provide. Encourages customers or clients to think. So a lot of the time they ideate with you, strategize. The brand is based on scientific breakthroughs, hard data, and esoteric knowledge. Differentiate your product from others whose quality or performance is often questionable. So it's like having someone in the same industry, but that's not great, and all of a sudden you just stand out on a pedestal because your expertise is so good and your knowledge is so good. The Jester, M&Ms, right? How much fun. Helps consumers feel that they belong. Function helps customers or consumers have a good time. It is priced moderate to low, and they differentiate themselves from overconfident, self-important brands. So they purposely want to position themselves as a more approachable, as more in-house, more of now I'm not going to say every day because that's a different archetype, but very accessible. Lover, Chanel. Helps consumers find love or friendship. The function fosters beauty, communication and closeness. Priced moderate to high. And they differentiate themselves in a positive way from lower priced brands. And in fact, quite often the lover is not interested. Well, price is never an issue, and that's a whole nother topic, but there is no comparison. There's generally no discounts. It is what it is. You pay for the value, the quality, and the expertise, and the feeling, that emotional connection, that oxytocin injection. Everyman, Target, helps consumers feel they belong. Function is something used in everyday life. It is priced moderate to low, and they differentiate themselves in a positive way from higher priced brands also. Hero, Nike. We've heard Nike come up a couple of times today. And Nike is an extremely expressive, iconic brand, as are many others. I've done a lot of work with Nike, and I've studied Nike and what goes on behind the scenes. Very clever. I actually have 5 points on this one because the last point I thought was really important. So, innovation that makes a major impact. Product helps people to perform at their upper limit. They often addresses a major social problem. The product or service can do a tough job efficiently and well, and they are often the underdog. Now, if you look at Nike now, you go, well, they're not the underdog, but boy, they were. Absolutely they were. Back in the day, I mean, the fact that they got Michael Jordan, the brand is by chance. They didn't want him. They had to settle. Can you believe this? Settle for Michael Jordan. Now look at the multi-bisquillion dollar business that Michael Jordan, the Air Jordans, and the entire branding around that has created. Rebel, Harley Davidson. Function of your product is to destroy, not, but you know what I mean. Rebuild, and it's revolutionary. Push boundaries, go beyond, seen as pioneers. Revolutionary attitudes, push boundaries. Priced low to moderate. The Magician, Disney, is a great example. The product or service is transformative, appeals to new age customers or consumers, and obviously the younger. Uses friendly technology, has a spiritual or psychological component, and is often priced medium to high. We're almost there. The Ruler, Rolex. High status product used by powerful people. Is that what you want to project? Are they the clients you want to connect with? Can offer a lifetime guarantee, price moderate to high, sometimes extremely high. Relatively stable product that promises safety and predictability in a chaotic world. It's often the ecosystem of what we call status bias or signalling bias. I mean, just look at Rolex. I've got a Rolex. There is a status behind that. Not saying it's right or wrong, but there is a status behind it. Creator identity, Lego. The function encourages self-expression, innovation, and is artistic. Quite often, marketing, PR, arts, technology companies fall under the creator identity. Provides an environment for creativity to flourish. It doesn't suffocate creativity, to flourish. Differentiate themselves from a brand that does it all for a customer. And then the last one, provide support, the caregiver, UNICEF. Provide support for families and is associated with nurturance. Healthcare, education, supportive services are often a caregiver archetype. Help consumers stay connected. Not-for-profits and charitable activities fall under this umbrella as well. So just quickly want to show you a case study before I give you the QR code to find out what you are. This was a study in duration 2000, it was 12 months, 2022-23. It was part of the brand psychology program that we do, plus a few other things, and the industry was in tech space. Now, you look at these results and go, what the heck? Now, this is because we put in and implemented behavioural science techniques to create behavioural economic growth. We looked at more pillars, but the 5 pillars I've put here is identity, messaging, engagement, differentiation, and sales. So at 0 months, or when we started, they're doing okay. They're doing okay. Not great, but okay. But 12 months later, exponentially, in every single aspect, by being able to understand what the archetype is, by working and creating an architecture within the organisation to connect with clients with that same archetype. So remember I said that we look at things very differently. So even my interpretation of Nike could often be different to someone else's. I might look at it as being athletic and powerful. Someone might look at it as being part of the social status. I want Air Jordan. It's very different. So we need to resonate on that same level. So guys, what is your archetype? So this QR code will take you to a quiz. It will take you about 90 seconds. I think there's 10 to 12 questions. Some are just text, some are pictures for you to do and to find out what you actually are. There is an option for you just to get what you are, your score, or what you can do if you want. This is purely up to you. If you would like to opt in, what I will do is send you the business archetype ebook that I've published. I'm happy to send that on to you guys here, if you would like that and to let me know. But it'd be good to find out, going through the attributes of each of those archetypes, if you're able to identify yourself and what you actually are. Some of the outcomes I've just listed here. I'm not going to go through them all because I want you to concentrate more on doing your quiz. I've gone through the case study. You can see clearly the significance and the impact that archetypes make. So whilst you're doing your quiz, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm everywhere. Some of you I know are already connected on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, X, leanneelichconsulting.com, and also neurodesign.consulting, which is some new work that I'm doing with my colleague at the back of the room, Clinton Nielsen. So thank you very much. Everyone's busy doing their archetype.
I was doing mine.
I know, I know.
I was trying to find out what it was. All right.
Everyone's doing their archetype.
How many times have you done that quiz?
Not that many, because it should be the same every time.
Right, and what are you?
What do you think I am?
I reckon you're a wizard.
No.
Aren't you?
No.
Oh, you are. You're a wizard. I heard that. That was
Yeah?
really, really clever. Yeah.
A wizard?
Yeah.
I'm a sage. So sage is...
Yeah, I get that. I get that as well. You're a guru. I get that. Absolutely. That was great.
Yeah,
All right,
sage.
now, okay, a couple of questions here.
Yep.
Which people are going to ask. Will artificial intelligence help people to take away that lack of deep interpretive thinking that only takes up maybe 5 or 2% of our time?
Not really, because AI itself, the algorithm can't understand consequence. And this is a big misconception with AI. I've worked with AI for nearly 20 years in the medical space. So what happens is AI itself is very good at, and some of the algorithms are very good at producing things that we do easily. So we want to create some content. We can do that, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So getting AI to help with those things that we do easily is one, or that we do moderately is
So I'm
great.
just wondering about the machine learning and that deep thinking, whether
So
that's
again,
gonna come.
coming up to consequence. So the algorithm needs to start understanding emotion and understanding if someone behaves in a certain way, they're going to get this outcome. So we now start needing to feed it cognitive biases, which is very independent per individual. So eventually it will probably come close to it, but we are looking at least a decade or more away before we get into consequential algorithm AI.
Okay, so the second thing I want to ask you about all of this is about the behaviour of crowds. In many cases, it's not one-on-one customer experience, it is about crowd behaviour. So the whole notion of being able to try and control the message to crowds, to large audiences, and to be able to work out how to get that crowd to behave in a particular way through your messaging or marketing. Is that an easier thing? Is that an easy thing to understand?
Not really. So what we need to do, there's definitely 4 profiles that we look at when within human behaviour, 4 profiles. And once we identify those 4 profiles, when you're in a group of room like this, you've got basically every single profile, all spectrum. So with my presentation, I mean, the first thing I've done to basically to stimulate the oxytocin is use a lot of colour. You would have noticed a lot of, so I was using colour psychology in my presentation, so I know that will stimulate all of you. But then I've changed the cadence of my voice, I changed the tempo, I stood still for a little bit, and then I moved. So basically catering to everyone that's in here, although there will be a very significant, there will be a quadrant that is quite significant, which is a D quadrant, that I tend to present in a certain way. So depending on what my audience is, I will tend to profile it and work that way. So to learn that, yes, you can learn it, but it's not an innate skill that you have.
Okay, because the notion of knowing your client and understanding how to engender client loyalty and indeed to actually bring more clients towards you, that is about trying to control your messaging, your behaviour, your organisation's behaviour.
Language as well.
Language, right.
Yeah.
So all of these things are things that you've got to be conscious of in order to maintain the psychology, the upbeat nature of your customer.
Correct. And each of these archetypes has a certain pattern and has a certain language. So if I, as a sage archetype, and trying to pretend we actually have 2 archetypes, a primary and a secondary. You'll find out your primary. I'm a primary sage and a secondary creator. Now, if I tried to be a lover, I'd be talking gobbledygook. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't fit with how I operate. The customers wouldn't resonate. So what you need to do is the language within each archetype is how you actually connect.
And you understand where we are right now, don't you? We're at the CEO Institute. We've got a room full of CEOs. You know that we've actually got about 170, 150 rulers in the room right now, don't you? You don't realise
No,
that?
actually, not necessarily.
Not
We've got a lot of
necessarily?
sages in the room.
Yeah.
A lot of sages in the room. Yeah.
We'll find that out. That'll be very good.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it.
So it is going to be sensational. Leanne Elich, that has been a great presentation. We've all learnt an awful lot, and many thanks for your time.
Great, thank you.
Brilliant.